What's up, tribe? Welcome back to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, hands down the number one real estate wholesaling podcast in America. Again, I am your host and Wholesaling Inc. coach, Rafael Cortez. Today, we are sitting down with Mr. Alec Lebeck. This is another gentleman that's playing around in my market, Maricopa County. Is Maricopa County the only market you're in right now?
No, that's one of many. We're in all
Cool.
of Arizona.
Beautiful. So welcome to the show, Alec. I'm very happy to have you over. I mean, I know we go way back. We've done a lot of work together, and it's really cool to come in and then sit down and then just pick apart your story, pick up the everything that you've done since you got started up to the point that we're at right now. So, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Tell us, give me a little bit about you. What's your background? How did you get started in real estate? Break it all down.
Sweet. So I'm originally from Minnesota. I live in Arizona now, beautiful Sunshine State. So I started in real estate about 2.5 years ago. I started as an agent and I got started in that. My parents were actually real estate agents. That's how I was conceived. So my mom, she would always preach the real estate investing growing up and house hacking and that kind of stuff. She wanted me to do.
Is that something they were doing back then?
Yeah.
House hacking?
She was really saying, like, when you go to college, buy a house and then rent your 3 rooms out to your buddies and then you're living for free. So, oh, that's cool.
Cool.
And then I moved to Arizona and I met a couple guys that were around my age that were in real estate. Turn my fan down. They were in real estate and pretty young, and I was like, oh, that's pretty crazy.
How old were you at the time?
I was probably 19 or 20.
19. How old are you right now?
25.
You're 25 years old.
Yep.
And so you've been exposed to real estate since since 18, 19, actually early on because of your family, right?
Yep.
So when did you get the real estate license? I'm trying to.
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago. All right. So you were 22 and got a real estate license. How did you end up? Because I know wholesaling has played a big part in what your life is now.
Yep.
But how did you end up wholesaling? What was that transition like?
Sure. So I was an agent and I went to Stunning Homes, which, if the listeners don't know, that's Steve Traning's brokerage. And so I went there and, tried to do the agent thing, wasn't getting a whole lot of traction with it. And I wasn't seeing the kind of money that I thought I was going to be seeing, but granted, I was pretty fresh in the business. So what could I expect? But
what? It's not a get rich overnight thing?
Well, I thought I just bought like a lottery ticket or something like that. But
yeah.
Clearly that was not the case. So I just kind of heard.
It's funny you say that, man, because this is one of those things that it's simple to do. But it's not easy, right? It takes work. You have to put in the hours, put in the effort, and there's a lot of setbacks that can play into it. Yeah,
absolutely. And we'll talk about some of those. So to continue that, so I was at the brokerage and I was doing the agent thing, and Max happened to be around, and I would always hear them, talking about wholesaling, and I had seen the Cody Sperber Facebook ads because he's in our market too, so I'd see those all over the place, and the Dean Graziosi ones. So I was always kind of curious about it, and I wanted to be a real estate investor. That's why I got my real estate license, because I wanted to go and I wanted to own this portfolio of rental houses, and that was going to be my path to retirement, which I still want it to be, just in a different measure. So I started going to the disruptors meetups, kind of mingling around other wholesalers, and then I partnered up with this older guy, and I was like, hey, like, you bring money, I'll do all the work. I know the people in the industry, I can make this work. I just need the money, because again, I was new to real estate.
So you started tapping into the network before you actually started tapping into the deals. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I did.
Is that how it kind of happened?
Yep.
Huh. Cool.
I mean, I was kind of immersed in it though. Like it wasn't wasn't really, unless I was completely like, nope, I don't want to listen to that. There was no way that I couldn't hear about it.
So you had your real estate license. You jump into this brokerage that just happens to be doing wholesaling as well, and it's full of great guys. Did you? Well, I guess it's a different story, but it's so you're in that space right now. How did you get into actually doing and starting working on your own wholesaling deals?
Sure. So so when I partnered up with that guy, we started with a small amount of money in the bank account, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get a Mojo dialer because I knew what Mojo dialer was. I'm going to do some texting, and it's actually really funny because I used the first platform that Batch launched before Batch was Batch. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, and I'm also going to write handwritten note cards to expireds because I was still trying to do the agent thing, but I also put in there like I can buy your house too. Mm-hmm. So I kind of went at it like a double-edged sword, like, hey, I can provide this or I can provide that. And this lady happened to call me. I was like, oh, nice.
So you got a call back. So you started marketing while you were in that space. And break it down a little bit. You said platform. What kind of platform were you using?
So that one they had at that time, not the platform now is completely different than what it was then. They were still REI Squad at the time. Mm-hmm. It was, they had white labeled a Roar platform.
Gotcha. Cool. Which is, I mean, you were looking at texting and voicemail drops. Were you doing both when you got started, when you got going?
I had bought credits for the voicemail drops, but I was trying to make the cold call and texting thing work. And then I would write 20 handwritten note cards every day and send those out. So every week I would send out 100 handwritten mailers, probably make a few hundred calls a week. And then I didn't understand the text stuff. So like I wasn't super consistent with it. So I really didn't get any deals from I didn't get any deals from texting for a while. Mm-hmm. So then, let's see, that was February, March. My former partner, Nick, he was living in Virginia at the time, and he had called me. He's like, hey, like, I want to do this real estate thing. Like, I know that you're like doing it. I have this guy out here. He knows a little bit about it. I was like, why don't we just partner and like, you and I'll just do Virginia and we'll do Arizona. Because the other guy, he just wasn't working out. Like he was like kind of half in, kind of half out. And then,
so your friend from Virginia had a partner in Virginia, and then he just reached out to you and wanted to partner up here. Is that?
Well, he didn't have a partner. He just knew this guy that was flipping houses out there, and he's like, hey, like I'm thinking about doing this, and I was like, well, why don't we just do it? He's like, cool. So we partnered. He flew out here, and we went to the Disruptors first boot camp, and then learned a ton while we were there. Took everything that we learned, bought a bunch of lists. We got a new tech software because the other REI Squad, they had shut that one down by this time.
So let me kind of interject there a little bit. You're at this point, you're trying to get going right on the business. You've made a partnership with Nick, and now you're both just taking off. You said you bought a bunch of lists. What did you get started on? Tell me about that, and what was your initial approach to marketing? So what I'm trying to get to is, I mean, you're starting pretty much green, right? All you have is some training, videos and tutorials and the people that are, talking around you, which, happens in meetups and all that stuff. But you're coming into it cold turkey pretty much without doing any wholesale deals before or working at in a place that's doing wholesale deals. What's your approach? So whenever you start marketing at first, like how did you do it?
Like, how did I get started? Like, what kind of lists and stuff do you mean?
Yeah.
So my first list ever was a pre-foreclosure list. That was the first list that I had texted. Previous to that, it was just expired listings. So I'd pull lists of expired listings from MLS and I'd try and cold call them. I'd skip trace them and then try and cold call them. So there was that. And then I went to just high equity because I was like, well, the foreclosure, there's not enough in there. Like, we need more data. Otherwise, we're just, so we went to like high equity with some very targeted zip codes and stuff like that in the markets that we were in.
Mm-hmm. So, and you start, how long did you do this for before you started seeing results? So, you're cold calling, and are you still sending out direct mail at this time, or what does it look like?
So when I partnered with Nick, that was in April, May-ish. By then I wasn't really sending as much of the letters.
Okay. So it was a cold calling?
Yeah.
Primarily cold calling?
It was just a texting then. I dropped the cold calling because I was like, I don't have time to do the agent thing and cold call for that, do this and cold call for that, and then, try and make everything work. And that was one of the big challenges that I had, was trying to make wholesaling and being in a full-time agent work.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of things. I mean, it is a lot of things, and especially because it does take commitment. I mean, you have to allocate. I remember going back to our sessions. We spoke about time blocking and bucketing, actually taking the time to dedicate it to this specific task, day in, day out. I know that when that started happening, that's when kind of, the results were showing up the most, right? But wholesaling is one of those things. Again, it's not the complicated business, but it's not easy, right? It's something that's going to take effort. It's going to take grit, and you're going to have to put yourself out there, have those conversations with the sellers, and then give yourself the time to actually commit to it. So, I mean, it's one of the biggest things, honestly.
Yeah. So from the time that I started in December of 2018, and I didn't get my first deal until July of 2019.
Okay.
Yes.
So 6 months?
Yeah.
6 months into it, and you got your first deal. Tell me about that. All right, let's break that first deal down. I want to do a couple of things with you. Tell me about the first deal that came through, what it looked like, and what it did for you at a personal level.
Sure. So it was a house in Phoenix.
Single family residence?
Yeah, it happened to be this guy that lived in Alaska. He bought the house for his daughter, and she lived out here. Then she got married, so she moved to Switzerland or Sweden or something like that. He was renting the house out, and he was like, "This sucks. Like they're paying the mortgage, and I'm not."
Oh, my favorite, man! Accidental landlord.
Yeah.
Accidental landlord. It happens all the time. You'd be surprised. It's you're reaching out to an absentee owner list, and then you start, listening to the scenario, to the story, to the pain point, and the actual situation. You find out that they bought a property for some reason. Now they're stuck with a property that, they can't, like in this case, right? The daughter moved away. Now he's stuck with a property that he doesn't want, and he's an accidental landlord. People are not built for that stuff.
Especially living in Alaska, working in oil wells.
Absolutely. That's crazy. Yeah. So then what happened?
So we got a hold of him from texting. Then we followed up with him for 6 weeks. He happened to be like out in parts of Alaska that he didn't have service in. So there would be like a week that we didn't hear from him. And we would like
legitimate, unreachable, right?
Yeah. And it was really frustrating. I actually forgot I happened to be already in Similar at this time. So I understood like all the kind of conversations that a lot of people are doing right now with the John Martinez trading, with Steve, and what you do too with your sales coaching. So
are you talking about closing and negotiation stuff?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
So I kind of knew all that. So we would do a lot of like takeaways, and then he'd come back and he'd be like, whoa, wait. No, I'm not like trying to ignore you. I'm just out in
the middle of a glacier.
In the middle of the tundra.
Yeah.
So then we ended up having some competition on the deal. We laid some landmines, large earnest deposit, waiving the inspection. So we were kind of rolling the dice. And then he threw that in our face. He's like, "Yeah, I want a $2,500 earnest deposit and no inspection period." I was like,
put your money where your mouth is.
Oops. So
have some vested interest. Yeah.
Yep. So we did it, and we put up the money, the earnest deposit. We contracted everything virtually, and then I think I sold it that afternoon.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah,
So you locked it up, and then you moved. You already have did you already have a buyer's list, or did you tap into somebody else's resources?
no, I was using the OfferFast app, and then I think I was using I think I knew Keegley Jamil at that time, so I think I had Keegley work on it a little bit, and then Pace happened to be at Selling Homes that day, so I ended up selling it to Pace, and then
Network, the power of the network again.
yeah, so we contracted it for 165, sold it for 178. ARV was like 230.
Uh-huh. Cool. 65, 78. So you made what, 13K on it?
Yep.
Nice. And did when you put I mean that's pretty for a first deal. It's actually a good sized deal, right? A lot of the times you're negotiating with fear on that first deal, and you really want it, and you stick to it, and then you're almost smothering the deal to the point where you squeeze out the profits. But 13K, it's actually really good for a first deal. Kudos on that, bro. Now a quick question: when he asked you to put down the $2,500 deposit and no inspections, what was your response on that? Did you put it out of pocket? Was that your cash? Did you tap into somebody else, or how did it work?
That was, we used our cash for that.
Okay.
We were like, well, we can't do too many of these before we run out of money, but
it can be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, so we did it, and it ended up being fine.
Nice.
And I knew it was a deal too. I knew it was either close to a deal or it was a deal. So I wasn't super worried about it. If it would have been he wanted 200 and ARV was 230, it would have been
yeah. So you had it in the ballpark, right?
Yeah.
And at this shape. At this point, you were I mean, you did have access to people that you could talk to and guide you through the process and the numbers and all that, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Awesome, man. I love it. What kind of seller, where was the seller coming from? What list was it?
That one was either absentee or code violations. I can't remember which one of the two it was.
Code violation lists. What's your process on getting code violation lists?
Go down to the county. It's a little different right now. I haven't pulled them for a while, but I used to go down to the county or the city hall, go up to the 4th floor, ask them for the list, pay the $12.50. They'd email it to me, and then at the time I would send it to my VA, or we would do it. And then after that, skip.
So you send it to the VA to get to do what?
To take it from PDF format to Excel.
Oh, so they would email you the PDF, and then you have to take it out of there and then just drop it in an Excel file, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a little. You know what? It's both a curse and a blessing when you have something like that. I mean, that's how I see it. Why? Because not everybody is willing to put in the work to get to that list, right? So it means that's that much or that many less people reaching out to those sellers.
Yep.
So if you have if you take the initiative to reach out to those people and put that list together, get it on a spreadsheet, and then get it skip traced, and then start calling these people, reach out to them, either driving for dollars, calling, or whatever, you're going to be one of the few that's actually doing it. So that's a lot less competition than reaching out to a high volume list, for example, absentee owners, right? You have competition. You can almost count on competition. Anytime somebody's selling a property now, all right, this is where I'm going to start, but in 2 days, somebody else is going to come in with another offer. I just know it. It's the temperature of the market, right? So you almost have to pre-plan for those things as they come up.
Right.
Yeah. Nice, man. I love it. So this happens, you close a deal. Another thing about closing the deal is that things become real, right? Now you're looking at a $13,000 check that's coming at you from, these efforts that you were, going on and doing for 6 months, and the follow-up and all that stuff. So, but what happens is that you have that validation now, this is something real. It's not something that you just see on YouTube. It's not something that you're just, it's real, it's tangible. You can touch it, and you can actually spend that money, put it back in your market, and then do it all over again.
The funny thing though, so we actually popped 3 in a row. It was that one, and then
wow,
we popped another one that was a $10,000 deal, and then a $30,000 deal. But the $30,000 deal closed before any of them. So the first $30K deal that we got was 30, and then 13, and then the 10.
So Oh, cool. So the first one that you locked was the 13,000, but the 30,000 closed first.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. So now they're stacking. So you have a period of 6 months, and then you see all this cash coming in, right?
Yep.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. You cut off again. I couldn't see a reaction. Like, are you there? So, all right. That's crazy, man. So 6 months, and all right. Run me through the numbers again. You had a 30K, and then you had a 13K. That's 53K, and then what else?
So it was a 10, a 13, and a 30. 53K
10.
total. And we contracted all three of them within a matter of 3.5 weeks.
Wow. Wow. And the contracts, where were the leads coming from? Were they all from the same campaigns, or was it follow-ups?
The 10K, that was a follow-up. That was also an absentee owner. And then the third one was an absentee foreclosure. But I was targeting foreclosure for that one. I know.
Were you stacking the lists?
The list stacker was not out yet at that point. So we just had like a billion spreadsheets.
So, and were you combining those lists?
No, I wasn't smart enough to do that at that time.
So you got lucky on that, but the cool thing is that, I mean, there is multiple pain points, right? So now you have an absentee owner who's also in foreclosure. I mean, that's just a recipe for it's gotta sell at one point. Either they bring it back from foreclosure, or they lose the property, lose the equity, and then lose their credit, right?
Oh, so, it was also an inherited house too.
The same one, so it had three different pain points.
Yep, but I didn't know it because I only had it on the foreclosure list because I didn't have as many lists as now.
Yep. And then you found out after the fact, after the conversation. Yeah, I mean, that's when you do that intentionally, and you're actually stacking the lists, and you start narrowing down. I mean, you end up with real hot, high response type of lists, right? That you can market out to, that you can tap into, that you can, set up routes for, to drive for dollars to. Direct mail, it's a lot cheaper when you have a concentrated list like that. And it's going to be a lot more responsive than just blasting it out to anybody who's an absentee owner. You gotta watch out for those marketing dollars, man. Make sure that you put them to work the right way. Yeah, exactly. It's pricey. Awesome, man. I love it. So now, all this happens in the first 6 months. Like, how did that change your outlook?
I saw that it was real. Mm-hmm. And I also saw the money come in so big, so quick. And I was like, why am I being an agent? my biggest check was $7,000. Why do I want to be an agent?
Yeah, well, you're solving bigger problems, right, than just a traditional sale. For example, that guy that was in Alaska, he didn't have to deal with the property and didn't have to come down and then do repairs on it. He didn't have to do any of that stuff because you were giving him the speed, and you were giving him the speed and the convenience that he was looking for. So.
Yeah, and he knew he was giving up equity too. He knew he had it appraised a month or 2 months before we bought it for 230.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. So yeah,
it was a really great deal.
Yeah. And that's a common, how much did you lock that one for again?
165.
165. So he knew that he was leaving a lot of equity on the table. Now, here's the thing. A lot of the time starting off, the idea is, or the notion is that, all right, this is all about money. The seller only wants the highest offer, but it's not the case. If they can trust you with a solution to whatever problem they have, they are going to go with you. They're going to go with you. I mean, take this guy, for example. He just had an appraisal done on the property for 230, and then he sold it for 160, what?
165.
He sold it for 165. So it's a big gap. Why? Why would people do it? People do that every single day, twice on Sundays, and it's because they have a particular problem that they need solved. They just don't want to deal with the headache, and that's where we come in. That's where you came in and provided that solution for that seller. I love it, man. So it's been really cool to track from the beginning where you started and then what's happening up to date. Tell me a couple of main things that new wholesalers should be focusing on.
Okay, cool. I would think And in my personal opinion, so we started in 2 markets. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I would start with 1 market, 2 marketing channels, and focus purely on acquisitions. If you have a great deal, it will sell itself.
That's gold.
Don't worry about the dispo and building your buyers list before you have any deals, because you have no deals to sell. So why are you talking to them anyways? I mean, some people say do it the opposite way, but in the markets that we're fortunate to be in, we have people like the Imans or Heagley that you can send them the property and they'll sell it for you, and they don't take that much out of the deal. You're giving up $5,000 to not have to worry about that. Awesome.
Yeah, it comes down to the type of business model that you're working, right? So, but you make a great point. You can partner up with other people that have resources, like for example, big massive buyers list. They take a win, you take a win, the seller takes a win. And yeah, but there's ways. At the end of the day, the art is always going to be in the finding, right? The art of wholesaling is in finding the discounted properties. That's really where our value comes in. Why? Because we're providing a solution for the seller. We're creating a solution for the end buyer. But if you don't have an end buyer, you can always tap into somebody else who does, who has a massive buyers list. They've been in the game. They've been in the business for longer than you, and thus the resources are a lot, are bigger. But if you have a property you're coming to that person or that partnership for that one deal with value, right? So it makes perfect sense. And I like how you're really dialing it down to 2 marketing sources instead of tapping into a whole bunch of different ones. I agree. I think the best stuff to start out with is always going to be cold calling. Cold calling is one of the backbones of our operation. We do tap into different things like direct mail, door knocking. I mean, we do it all, right? But at the end of the day, one thing that never slows down is going to be the cold calling.
Yep, I agree with that. So that would be the first thing I would say. I think the second would be focusing on your bottom line and paying yourself. That's like once you have deals coming in, once you have your first deal, second, third, fifth deal, focus on like what you're keeping and how much you're paying yourself. Because I made the mistake of made all this money, but where did it all go? We reinvested it back in the business and didn't pay ourselves anything. So we were broke, but we had all these assets, intellectual property assets in the business. We had no real assets. We had no real money. So
what do you mean by assets? Where were you putting the money back into? And what wouldn't you do again?
List, systems, you name it. We would buy Property Radar, PropStream, Revo Gateway. We had all 3 of them, but I didn't ever pull lists from Revo Gateway, and I hardly pull them from Property Radar. Just stupid stuff like that, where you're not focusing on where you're spending all your dollars, because
you got heavy,
abundance of cash. You really have to watch every dollar that goes out to make sure that you're not overspending.
Yep, you got heavy. It makes sense. And there's so much good stuff out there, right? But it's easy to have that shiny object effect where like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. I'm going to buy that too. I'm going to sign up for that subscription. I'm going to do this and then do that. And then at the end of the day, you only use 2 out of the 10 that you just bought.
Been there, done that, and crashed that.
Yeah, I have this thing I call less business, more profits, right? So it's LESS, as in lean, effective, strategic, and simple. And that's how I like to think about businesses. Even, the wholesale operation is the exact same thing. Think lean, think effective, think strategic, and then think simple. If you can get all those 4 lined up, you're going to end up with a good solid flow of how you can do deals over and over again. The point is that the blueprint pretty much that you're laying down, which is focus on two types of marketing, because that's what worked for you guys in the first 6 months. And then, if you have to partner up, focus on the marketing, focus on the acquisitions, which is the art of finding the wholesale deals. And then there's going to be solutions for the rest of the stuff. So if you don't have a route yet, those are very actionable things that you can just tap into and go to town on.
Yeah. So I have 2 more on that. The third one would be focusing on improvement and focusing on your own success. Very easy to be in our industry, to look around and see the guys driving the Lambos, or people like you, people like me, people that are doing a lot of business, and you're like, I want to model that because that's success. But how do you know that's really success? You don't know how much money they have in their bank. You don't know what their bills look like, how much stress they have, what their family life is like. Figure out what you want for your own life, and then take the steps backwards, or jump forward and take your steps.
Yeah. I love that, man. That is deep. And it really, mindset it's going to be one of the things that either makes you or breaks you. Especially in a business like this, where there's a ton of rejection. There's a ton of flashiness, right? Per se. There's a lot of ego in the industry. There's a lot of ego that plays into just about anybody that you meet. But you do make a great point. I mean, if you choose your track, stay on your track, figure out what your track is and what race you're running. And I mean, that's gonna get rid of half the problems out there. Why? Because if you know you're running your race, not the next guys, you know where you're headed, right?
Blinders on.
Yeah, I love it, man. What are the top three things that? Oh, I'd already asked you that one. So right now, give me your highest income generating activity.
So for me, my focus has changed a little bit. Previously, and actually back when I was working with you, I was full-time acquisitions. That's all I did. Now with my new partner and the people on my team, they're handling acquisitions, and I handle all of our day-to-day operations and disposition of the properties. So for me, once the contracts come in, I go and I sell the properties. That I think would be my highest generating, aside from me running the whole back end, all the operations and the marketing.
Cool.
I set up all of our campaigns, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. You're big into personal growth. I know that for a fact. So give me a good book that you would recommend for somebody starting up in wholesaling.
Ooh. I love this book. It's called The Alchemist.
Oh yeah. Very first book I read. Cover to cover.
That book. That is a great book for somebody that's like, okay, well, my story sucks. Like I keep getting kicked in the teeth and I think I'm getting somewhere, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Read that book. I think that one, Outwitting the Devil, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. Those are like my top 3 books.
Yep. They're phenomenal books. All 3 of them.
Yep.
All 3 of them. The Alchemist is actually the first book that I ever read cover to cover. And that one just kind of, changed my outlook on books. And now I go through them like a maniac. But yeah, man, no, thank you so much. It's been a really good time with you, and thank you for sharing your journey with us and really, being open about how you started, how, the highs and the lows and what got you kind of through it. And really sharing the fact that you had 3 deals come in over the first 6 months. I mean, it's just insane. It's just insane. And it's a testimony to what happens when you commit to something and you go, all in into it and, dedicate the time and the effort into it. So thank you very much, bro, for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, all right, tribe, there you guys have it. There's been no better time than now to jump into There's been no better time than now to tap into the best opportunity out there, which is real estate wholesaling. So go to wholesalinginc.com and have a conversation with our team, set up an appointment. And if it works out for both parties, you might get an invitation to become part of the tribe. If you do, I look forward to working with you on a one-to-one basis. Until then, stay focused. You got this.